Half a day, guys, and we're back with another episode of the One Micronesia Podcast. Man, I am excited, stoked about this one because I get to sit down with. I mean, we're making. I mean, she made history. I'm just here just to hear her
We're making
story.
history.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with the one and only Nicole Yamase, who is the first Islander Micronesian to travel to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and help me welcome this wonderful, awesome lady to the podcast, who's also a friend of mine. So, Nikki, welcome to the podcast.
Victor, thank you for having me. It's great to see you again since 2007
Seven,
at
I
Xavier
know.
High School, Mabuchi.
It's been a minute, pretty much. I mean, we've all graduated, did our part at school. We graduated, and everybody just off to a great start. I mean, look at what you're doing. You're continuing, you furthered your education, and look where it got you, all the way to the bottom, the deepest points of the earth, pretty much. And you did it to for education wise, and you also did it for your family, your friends, and you did it for the whole region of Micronesia represented. Talk about representation. Back in Xavier High School, it's all about pride. Man, you did show pride when you dove down. I don't know how many feet. I'm gonna just let you get into details of how many, like how long and how deep that went. But honestly, Nikki, welcome to the podcast, and it's such it's really such an awesome thing to get you on here. So, Nikki, before we get to the trip, and I know everybody is waiting to hear your story. I just want to get to know you. I mean, I know you, but for those who don't know you, let's just get to know you a little bit. So, let's tell the people who are listening and watching where you're from, and what you've been doing these past couple of years.
Okay, so I'm from the beautiful islands of Pohnpei and Chuuk in the First States of Micronesia. Uh, like Victor said, we knew each other from Xavier High School. So I attended Xavier High School and graduated in 2009 and then moved out here to Honolulu right after to attend Chaminade University of Honolulu, where I got my BA in biology and BS in environmental studies. And now I'm currently at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in the marine biology graduate program as a PhD candidate. So still in school.
Hey, still in school and still doing amazing things, Nick. Don't get that wrong. You're honestly, you're doing such an awesome thing, and you're making everybody out here proud. Just to see somebody take that big step. That's a huge step. A huge dive. Let's put it that way, because so, Nikki, so you're there, you're studying. Let's talk about marine science and marine biology. Why that? What of all the fields we graduated from high school, you could have went anywhere with any field. Why marine biology?
So I first learned of climate change and all, like became aware of all these environmental problems at Xavier High School because one of the classes we had to write an essay. I knew I wanted to go into the conservation area, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to do marine biology or terrestrial. So at Chaminade during my summers, I attended summer internships. My freshman year, I did a summer internship at the University of Hawaii. It was a NSF funded internship called the Undergraduate Research and Mentoring in the Biological Sciences. During that summer, I studied fish, more so the fish that were caught for aquarium trade. So I did a lot of snorkeling, fish surveys in Waikiki, at Coconut Island, in Kaneohe Bay. And from that summer, I was like, okay, that was really fun. Now I know what it's like to do marine biology research. Next summer, I'll do something different. How about, the Native American and Pacific Islander research experience in Costa Rica, which I did. And there I studied frogs. Very different. But then, after those 2 summers, that gave me a better idea of what I was really interested in. Studying frogs in Costa Rica was really fun, but really the ocean was more for me, I felt. And that's how I started narrowing my interests to marine biology. And then the next summer, I went to the University of Miami for another internship with the Leadership Alliance. And there I started research on macroalgae. So this was the beginning of it all. with my dissertation focus, marine plants. The next summer, sorry, I did 5 years from my undergrad. So my fourth summer, I returned to the University of Hawaii and did continued my studies in macroalgae. And my mentor during that summer internship, Dr. Celia Smith, is my current graduate advisor. So all these summer internships and experiences led me to where I am today in graduate school. And so my summer project that I did as an undergrad is currently developed. It developed into my dissertation now.
Wow, like all those years that you put in all that hard work, it really is paying off. I mean, you're not done yet. I mean, you're still on your way to getting that doctorate, you know, the PhD. But wow, look at all the things that you had to accomplish, the experience you had to go through, you know. But it's I think the amazing thing was that you always had this whole longing for the ocean. I mean, we were born and raised in the ocean, so I think it's so beautiful to see you take up that field and to also encourage our younger generation of Micronesians who, you know, might not know what they want when they graduate from high school to maybe look into that area, because, you know, at the end of the day, they have to come back home to give back. And we learned that at Savior, where giving back is key, you know, to our community. So I think that's one of the coolest things that you're doing is to kind of bringing back that area that people tend to forget, because we graduate and we're always looking at being a lawyer. I mean, it's not like being a lawyer is not bad, or being a computer engineer, and that's all the best, right? But we need those are the fields back home in FSM that we need people to help us with, especially when it comes to our water. I mean, we are surrounded by water, so might as well have a group of individuals who specialize in that, so that way we don't have to seek, you know, for experts elsewhere in the States and elsewhere in the world to come all the way to FSM to help us, you know, find out what's wrong with our water, or to find out how we can keep our waters healthy and for the next generation. So what you're doing, Nikki, is just an amazing thing to, like I said, to encourage other younger generation of Micronesians to step up and take the field. So wow, guys, we're gonna take a quick break. I know it just started, but we're gonna go on a quick break because I want to come back and just concentrate on what is key and what this talk is going to be all about. It's about Nikki's experience, the journey to the pretty much the deepest part of the world. So we'll be back to talk about more about the journey. Holiday guys, and we're back. It's the One Micronesia Podcast, and I'm sitting here and I'm chatting with the one and only Nicole Yamase, the first Islander Micronesian, the third woman to ever go deep down into the Marianas Trench. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Nikki. Nikki, we talked about, you know, your past, your journey through pretty much marine biology to where you're at right now in Honolulu. So let's talk about it. And I think people are turning up their volume right now because they're ready to hear your experience and hear how it all started for you. So the voyage into the deep, how did it all start? The idea, the nomination, everything.
So Victor has gone to the Mariana Trench many times. This was his 12th dive with me, but he believed it was time to bring someone from the FSM, and so he reached out to the Wade Institute, who has done a lot of work and in promoting sustainability for our oceans in Micronesia region. And so they reached out to the Micronesia Conservation Trust, which is where I received the Bill Rayner Micronesia Challenge Scholarship from. And from there, they asked me to represent the FSM on this expedition.
Wow. How was it, you know, when you first got the call? You know, you think it was a prank call? Like, who's this? Is this a joke? You know, how was it? You know, what was going through your mind? What were the feelings and emotions and stuff?
It was Bertha, your classmate, who works at MCT, who messaged me and said, "Hi, Nikki, are you interested in representing FSM and going on a submarine?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?"
And, you know, it honestly, it was her who sent me the email. I woke up in the morning and she was like, "Hey, you want to get Nikki in your podcast?" Like, "Yeah, sure. What's happening?" She's going to the Marianas Trench. I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Wait, did you say Marianas Trench?" She says, "Yeah, she's on an expedition." I'm like, then that's how, you know, I jumped on and learned and went to your Instagram and just started, you know, learning about the journey. Like, what is happening? So thanks to her and the Micronesia Conservation Trust and the work that they're doing out here is just amazing. And
Yes.
helping you out through school. And I'm pretty sure what you're doing is definitely going to help them. And when you come back, and I'm pretty sure that's the field maybe in the future that you would want to pursue. But Nikki, let's talk about it. So we talked about the initial reactions to the call, getting the call to go to the deepest part of the earth. So let's talk about some of the training. Did you have to do trainings before you go on to this expedition? What was it? Or was it just like, oh, let's jump in a submarine, let's go dive?
uh, no specific training. I just had to make sure I was COVID free, I was healthy, and I was not claustrophobic. My own personal training was to try and not use the bathroom for 10 hours. That was the whole length of the expedition, 10 hours. And I thought, hey, I've been riding on the Island Hopper all my life. So that was my training pretty much. I've been training for this my whole life, really.
Did you have second thoughts? I want to know, like, did you ever have second thoughts, like halfway through the whole planning, the planning of the journey? And did you just like, oh man, I don't know, like I just don't feel like I want.
No second thoughts. There were just moments. Everything, this whole process happened so fast. I had my little moments where I was like, I'm going down. It's going to happen in like a few weeks. And then I'd come back to reality and be like, okay, let's prepare. Let's see what I can do. How do I represent Micronesia? How do I represent the Pacific Islands? So really, again, this all happened so fast in like 4 to 5 weeks. So I like, even just being here right now back in Honolulu, I'm still trying to like, what happened, what just happened.
I know it's one of those experiences where, and it's such an amazing and unique experience. Pretty much, we talk about. I think all our lives we went to school and we've always looked at the stars and like, oh, one day we might be astronauts to fly all the way out to space. One day, that was always the dream. They always tell us, the sky's the limit. But you didn't go up, you went down. You went to a part of the world where, and I think this is where it becomes really significant, especially when it comes to the Micronesian people. You went to somewhere where nobody even expected us to go. Like I said, we were taught to go up pretty much, but you went to a part of the earth where not a lot of people went. I mean, I looked through. I think the 13th, somewhere around there, not even 20th. One of the group of people to have made it down to the Marianas Trench. That is something that's huge. And we're going to talk about that later on. So when we come back after this break, we'll talk about the Challenger's Deep. Hafide, guys, and we're back, and we're still talking to Nicole Yamase, the first ever Islander Micronesian to ever travel down to the Marianas Trench. Now, Nikki, we talked about how it all started for you, how the field you got into. We talked about the preparation before the trip, and now let's talk about it, because this is where people are really tuning in to listen to hear about how it all went. From the point of entry to the point where you came back up. So let's talk about it. So I know so now you're aboard the DSSV Pressure Drop. You're leaving port in Hawaii, headed for the Marianas. So what is the Challenger's Deep?
So the Challenger Deep is the deepest known part of the Earth, and where Victor and I dove, this is located in the southern end of the Mariana Trench. So this part is located specifically in FSM's EEZ.
All right. So for those who are tuning in right now, let's talk about the rundown of the trip.
So Victor and I got in sub, and it takes about 5 to 10 minutes for us to go down. We have people on the limiting factor, unhooking us, and then making sure everything is ready to go. So we're in there bobbing. So you got to have a strong gut for this part. So we're there bobbing, waiting for the thumbs up. And once we go down, it's just smooth sailing from there, 4 hours down. And I just remember looking out of the sub. We have 3 small windows, and I just see the different colors of blue just changing from lighter to darker.
Wow. Let's talk about. Let's see. What are some of the things you saw along the way? I mean, in the video you did post a link of a video for people to go watch and pretty much give a little understanding of how it would go for you, the different levels of the ocean, the different species that you will see as you go deeper and deeper. So let's talk about some of the things that you saw. Did you see things that you would have never thought you'd seen in your whole entire life?
Uh, the on the way down, I didn't see much, but once we got to the floor, it looked like a desert, pretty much underwater. But like I said in my post, just because I didn't see anything doesn't mean that there's no life down there. There have been previous studies that have collected sediment and rocks and have found thriving bacteria mats living down there. So there is life. It's not dead.
Nice. So you guys are down on the bottom, the sea floor. Let's talk about. So what are the things? Some of the things that you guys did when you guys was it like just all the way down there, done? Okay, we're back up, or did you guys collect samples? What happened when you guys were down there?
We spent a total of 2 hours at the bottom, and we had a lander down there with us that we had to locate. So once we hit bottom, we had to locate the lander SCAF. So SCAF is one of the landers we use as a point. It's able to communicate with the ship and with the submarine, the limiting factor, and it's a way for us to determine where we are exactly at the bottom of the ocean, because while we're coming down, we're drifting. The lander, its job is to collect water samples. It can collect cement cores as well, and it also can record videos down there. So it does the feeding tests where you get all these cool animals coming to feed on dead fish.
Wow.
Um, we also tried to collect. Well, Victor tried to collect some rocks with the arm that was attached to the limiting factor. But because down there it's so fine, the silt is so fine. He Once he grabbed what we thought was a rock, it just disintegrated.
That's crazy. So you're down there, you're seeing all these things happen. You made it all the way to the bottom. That's pretty much you made history already, being all the way down there to the bottom. What was going through your mind at the time?
When we were floating 2 meters off of the bottom, that's when I was like, oh my goodness, we made it. We are here. And we went to the western pool of the Challenger Deep and east of it. So that was really an area that nobody has been before to their knowledge. So this was just all new, and to be the eyes that witnessed this part of the ocean for the first time with Victor was just mind blowing.
Let's talk about it because while you were down there, we talked about your trip, your preparation, and one of the things that you also prepared to take down there were some artifacts, something to symbolize where you're from and who you represent. So you brought down some stuff. Let's talk about some of the artifacts and stuff that you brought down with you.
Yeah, so this expedition was not only an opportunity for us to conduct science, but it was also really important for me to bring down a part of who I am as a Pacific Islander to the Challenger Deep. So one of the items I brought down was my dad's canoe that he's had for a while. And during before the expedition, I was really thinking hard, how could I represent Micronesia? How could I represent Pacific Islanders? And so good friends of mine recommended bringing a canoe because really, as Pacific Islanders, our ancestors were navigators. And so that's why I brought it down. It was also in honor of Papa Maupiailug from Satawal from the islands of Yap. So really all his sacrifices and his efforts in bringing back traditional navigation, that's what I wanted to bring in honor of him. I also brought down two photos. One was of Dr. Isabella Abbott, who was the first Native Hawaiian woman to get her PhD in a science field. And she has contributed so much to the Limu world. She was known as the First Lady of Limu, which is seaweed in Hawaiian. And the second photo I took down was of Dr. Roy Suda, who has also made significant contribution, especially to the Micronesia region, in writing our checklists for our macroalgae and seagrasses. So I wanted to bring those two pictures down with me in honor of them.
That's a big thing to do. You could have just went down there and not told anybody, and you came back and like, "Hey, I'm Nikki. I just went to the bottom of the ocean. I did it for me." But you're like, "Hey, my name is Nicole Yamase from the Federal States of Micronesia, and I went to the bottom of the deepest part of the earth to not represent myself, but to represent Pacific Islanders and what we stand for." So that was beautiful, I think.
That's what I really wanted to do. Really, this was not just my own journey, it was for us, and I really wanted to make sure that everybody felt that they were coming down with me.
Wow, that's beautiful. And yeah, we were honestly, I mean, we weren't there with you, but we were there with you in spirit, pretty much. All right, Nikki, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to close out and talk about a few other things, talk about what you got planned coming up in with your studies and what you got planned in your life as well. So when we come back after this break. Howdy, guys. It's the One Micronesia Podcast, and we're back. And we're still here for the last part of the podcast here I'm talking with the one and only Nicole Yamase, the first ever Islander Micronesian to have ever traveled down to the Marianas Trench. Now, Nikki, we started the podcast with getting to know you, what field you're interested in, how it all started for you. We talked about the initial call to being picked to going on this journey, your feelings. We talked about the journey on the way down. We talked about how it was down there, what was done, operation wise, what you and Victor did down there. And then now, we're here to pretty much close out the podcast. And like I said, you set a record for Micronesians as the Micronesian Islanders as the first Micronesian, first Islander, first Micronesian woman to travel to the bottom of Challengers Deep. Now, has it all sunk in yet? Did you ever, right now you're sitting in quarantine. Has it hit you that you've accomplished something that no Islander, has ever done?
I'm still processing it. That whole trip, once I got to Guam, it was 1 week. I arrived on the 8th, and then we left to the Mariana Trench on the 10th. Took 20 hours to get there. We got there around early morning, 5 a.m. And then Victor and I went down at 10 a.m., came back up at 8 p.m. and went back to the dock. And now I'm back here. So really just that 1 week, I don't know where it went, but I'm back here and I'm still thinking about it. Like, did that just really happen? Like with all these interviews, they keep asking me the same question and I'm just like, really? I'm still processing it, but it's such an honor to hold this position, because as a Micronesian woman, we have our traditional expectations of, staying near shore, not venturing far out. So just to go down all the way to the deep is really already in itself breaking boundaries that we can be on shore, we can be in the depths and in between.
For younger generations of Micronesians, for younger generations of Micronesian women or Micronesian girls watching this podcast right now, I'm pretty sure they're inspired by what you just did. It might be just a 10-hour trip down to the bottom and back up, but to them it means a lot to see somebody from their own island make this epic voyage to the bottom, to the deepest part of the earth. So 17th person to be added to the list of people who've traveled down to the Marianas Trench, the third woman in her story to make the trip, and the first ever Micronesian, the first ever Islander to have ever done it. Nikki, like I said, I'm talking to you right now, and it's such an honor to hear your story and what you've done and what you will continue to do. So let's talk about that. What's next for Nikki?
What's next? Well, I hope to graduate by the end of this year with my PhD. My long-term goal is to return to Pohnpei, and I really want to start. There's so many things I want to do. I want to teach, I want to work, I want to do research, I want to work for like environmental organizations. I want to start my own NGO. But really, like if I could start my own marine lab back home, this could provide research opportunities, trainings for the next generations of scientists. I would love to do that. Like I said earlier, with all my experiences, my summer internships, that's what I want to bring home, because not all of us could have access to those. So to take all of my experiences and trainings and knowledge and to bring that and make that available for us.
Wow. See, you talk about, going to Xavier High School and talk about giving back to the community. That is a huge way of giving back. So, Nikki, it's such an awesome way to do that. And like I said, you build a whole lab, people will come because they want to learn under the one and only Nicole Yamase, the first ever Micronesian, first ever Pacific Islander to ever travel to the bottom of the ocean. You're going to be in the books one day. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
You are already in the books. Google has you. So down the line, generations of islanders will learn about your story, and I hope that will inspire them to do even more and even greater things. I think that's what we're trying to do here, is to pretty much change the narrative for young Micronesians who are out
yes.
in Guam or in Hawaii or in the world, pretty much, that they can do anything just like you did.
Yep.
All right, so Nikki, we're about to close out here. Any final words? Any final shout outs? You want to thank somebody? This is where you go.
Yes. Of course, most and foremost, I'd like to thank Victor Vescovo and the DSSV pressure drop crew, because without them, this wouldn't have been possible. And then also to the Wait Institute and the Micronesia Conservation Trust and all of you for following my story and believing in me, really, to represent all of us. It's such a huge honor. And I hope my expedition, as Victor said, will inspire many young Pacific Islanders to pursue STEM educations. There's so much opportunities out there for us. And if I could, help provide the proper mentorship, resources, and support to get you there, please, by all means, let me know, and I will do what I can to help you.
All right. Well, there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Nicole Yamase, the first ever Micronesian, the first ever islander to ever travel to the bottom, the deepest part of the world, the Marianas Trench, the Challenger Deep. Nikki, thank you so much again for taking the time. The time differences in Guam and Hawaii, but you did take your time. I know you have so many interviews lined up for you. I'm pretty sure. I know you got one to go to next. So, Nikki, thank you so much for the opportunity to sitting down and to hearing your story and to hearing about your journey.
Thank you so much, Victor.
All right. Well, there you have it, guys. That pretty much wraps up another episode of the One Micronesia podcast. Guys, we'll see you at the next one.